lighting.
Yeah. Welcome to Dallas.
Hey, welcome back to Dallas.
Welcome back to Dallas.
Oh yeah, it's like my second home.
Well, I know we got a lot of questions to get through, but the first one is, what did you learn about acting from General Hospital? What is it about working on a silk that trains you as an actor? Because it's like every day you're changing things up, it's a little bit run and gun. I am curious.
On a soap opera?
Yeah, seriously, how does that form you as an actor?
Well, I went to school actually to kind of learn the craft a little bit. That's the boring part. But the reality was that getting that first television job, other than some piddly little, let me see how you say piddly. Little commercials and stuff was, when I got on General Hospital, like that was going to school. That was the training because we ended up doing an hour script every day, having to hit marks, learn tons of dialogue, none of which I knew how to do. And so it was a bit of a struggle in the early goings, but I pretty much learned technically the business there.
Yeah. Well, okay, so it was
No,
that was a good question, yeah, or a good answer. I'm always curious about how those early jobs impact us and shape us, because they do. They have an impact on us. But I guess maybe a little bit more relevant to this crowd is the fact that MacGyver was 139 episodes. Okay.
I thought you were going to say years old. Just looking.
And then Stargate was 214 episodes, I think.
Now I'm glutton for punishment. That's I've been very lucky, I have to admit.
But I mean, so between Angus MacGyver and Jack O'Neill, who are you more kind of connected to as a character? Who do you have more of a fondness for?
Bart Simpson. It's kind of a bit of a toss-up. I mean, in everyday life around the house these days, I'm more of kind of a MacGyver guy, but without the adventure aspect of it. Because I'm just piddling around, kind of semi-retired. I've got my 2 dogs, ushering my daughter through college. She's in the East Coast, I'm in the West. So that's a bit of a struggle. But so I'm doing that, but my attitude will always be Jack, I think.
Yeah.
But with more respect than he showed. I'm kind of a balance of it all.
Yeah.
The real guy is, if anybody has seen Legend, 8. My favorite project to date. That was more the character that I identified with. He was not anymore, mind you, because he was a drinker, a smoker, a gambling man, a womanizer, all of which I've given up. I swear. But that was a fun character to play with, but it didn't get much exposure.
Yeah. Well, with sort of 2018, we have all these shows that are, for instance, Stargate Command, I guess, allows fans to have access to the whole library, right? And so you now have this potential of new fans learning about Stargate all the time. Are you discovering there's sort of a new generation of Stargate fans that are coming up, kids and new fans?
Well, yeah. I mean, we owe that new popularity mostly to the parents, the first audience, the folks that were exposed to it initially, and then now they're having kids, and it's all as long as it keeps airing, I think it'll be a generational thing, because especially MacGyver, I think more so than maybe Stargate, although Stargate is son.
All right, well, wait, hold on. Okay.
Got fans on both sides.
Out of this whole crowd, all right, I want you to make some noise. First, I'm going to ask you who the MacGyver fans are versus Stargate fans are. Okay, so MacGyver fans. And you can be fans of both, but I want to see who kind of tops out here. Stargate fans.
Dead even. Well, I guess you prefer the attitude of Jack O'Neill. Kind of a smart ass. Alan. Smart Alan. Kids.
Well, let's go ahead and throw it to an audience question. We got one right here. Hey there, how are you?
Good, how are you? Hey, if you believe everything you read in Mad Magazine, when Mad Magazine parodied MacGyver, I think you wrote a letter in appreciation. Did you consider it a badge of honor that Mad Magazine would satirize your propriety?
Absolutely. Well, that's why I wrote the letter. What year was this? It's like so long ago, but thank God somebody else knew about it. But because I've got that whole panel thing up on my wall that I framed, and it's because it was a total honor. That was my Bible growing up, Mad Magazine.
Oh yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of the older folks, yeah. So when Ed DiBartolo, I believe, at the time, I sent him a letter thanking him for the total on-the-spot, on-the-head send-up that they did of MacGyver. McGimmick, he was called. He fashioned, Automobile Soapy fashioned a key to open a door, but he used as a model the key to the door. It was beautiful. So yeah, I really like that kind of stuff.
Well, then on top of that, Patty and Selma, loving MacGyver. Like, how did you find out about that? That you were also being an homage being played on The Simpsons.
Well, I watched it religiously.
Right. Yeah.
So, well, yeah, it was kind of a shock that all of a sudden MacGyver was being invoked. His name was being invoked, or what? What's the word?
Yeah, I mean it's
in English. Invoked is right. Okay.
Yeah.
They were saying MacGyver on the show on The Simpsons, so I knew that somebody had. And then I met Dan Castellaneta. He did a show for Stargate. And we became kind of chummy, and that's when he asked if I'd be interested in being on an episode of The Simpsons, and picked myself up off the ground and said, yeah. And he and his wife had been developing an idea for that script. They wrote it, and my life is complete.
Yeah, Matt and then The Simpsons,
Yeah, I'm waiting for Seth MacFarlane to call.
Well, now your quote belongs to the internet, so...
Right.
Yeah.
There's that. Seth! I'm unemployed!
Howdy, how are you?
Hi. I just gotta say my grandma was in love with you, much like Patty.
Nothing wrong with that.
You were gonna be her fourth husband.
Lift that mic up. What are you, 10, 9 feet tall?
6'6".
Huge.
My grandma wanted to make you her fourth husband. And we watched all of MacGyver and all of Stargate together. And I was just wondering what stunt you liked most or hated most? Like rolling.
MacGyver?
Or either.
Oh, well, the one that I loved was one of the first ones we did. Right. And it was called Pegasus. It was one of those pre-episode vignettes. It was a little teaser, which became impossible to do. They're expensive, etc. Anyway, MacGyver's in a tent in some foreign land, some Arabic speaking. You gotta be so careful. I'm sorry. But, so he sneaks out of the tent, jumps on this horse and races out to the beach to get away. Obviously, it's a coastal Arab country. And so I'm riding down, and the bad guys show up, of course, with sabers and all the cliches. And so MacGyver takes off and goes the other way, and riding down, and a helicopter comes from behind, dropping a huge hook, and which I grab and put onto the saddle, which has been fashioned for that hook. coincidence. And then got lifted off the ground. And that was fun to do. They didn't let me go up the 300 feet that it went. I got to go like 12 feet off, and they went, cut, you can't do that. I said, yes, I can, yes, I can. The horse likes me. Poor horse is like, literally relaxed and loved it, flying.
What horse wouldn't?
Truly, her dog. Arms get tired?
All weekends, our interpreters, I mean, they've been working hard. They've been working as a team all weekend on stage. And, I mean, actually, let's just give it up for our interpreters. All right, let's take another audience question. Hey, how are you?
This is a Stargate question.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I was real curious about the relationship between Jack O'Neill and Samantha Carter.
Were you now?
Yeah. Because it was teased the whole show, almost the whole show, about them actually getting together at some point. Was there a plan to do that, and they just never went through with it? Because I know that's hard because of the military rule.
So to speak.
Right. So was there any kind of plan maybe after you retired?
Well, yeah, off camera all the time. That is the biggest lie I've ever told. Yeah, the biggest. Well, you're right. We had to be respectful of the Air Force and the military codes of decency. And so we had a good relationship with the Air Force, but they allowed, anytime we, like, I don't know what to call it, because I was so confused about the parallel universes and where are we now kind of thing. But there was a time when we were in a different place, so it was okay, and I wasn't wearing a uniform that, it was Groundhog Day kind of thing. That kind of, yeah. And I got to make out with her all day long. I mean, Jack did. Not me. But, getting back to my favorites, that was one of my favorite episodes too.
Do you find yourself, like, as fans, you know, we remember so much and go back and can rewatch everything, but as the person that was working in it and living through it, are there just like pockets of like episodes that you totally forget about, where you're like, oh my God, someone's gonna ask about this, and I'm just not gonna remember it?
Oh, God. Name an episode, you've stumped me. Part of the, I mean, as we go on here, you'll realize just how old I've gotten and how much I've forgotten. Yeah, I mean, thankfully they gave Michael and Amanda all the technical jargon, all the words. Because first of all, there's no way I could retain all of that and say it. Which is handy as an actor, if any of you are in the business, but you got to be able to talk, read and talk. Talk. What was the question?
It was mine. You got it. Yeah. Moving along. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Okay.
Okay, that's good. First off, I want to say that you're my childhood idol.
You're still a child already. I mean,
I'm only 28, so. I do want to say that Jack is part of why I have the sense of humor I do. So thank you for that.
I'm
Can't take
sorry.
it. I can't take it seriously. So,
I'm so sorry.
my question was, as far as acting, when you're reacting to something that isn't there, you know, for instance, like a swarm of replicators, how do you act that out? You know, because you're shooting in one direction or another direction, and you know, how do you do that? How do you prepare yourself for that?
Well, when you were a kid, did you ever play?
No, never.
Never? I did. That's how I did it. No, it's a technical business science fiction now. I mean, there's some movies being made now where people don't even see each other, and they do things completely in different environments, all in front of a green screen or some kind of trickery like that. So actors these days that are doing movies like that have to learn how to do it. It's just, it comes down to your imagination is all it is. You just got to put somebody there. And as I became an older kid and realized that maybe I was going to pursue acting, I started getting serious about my play friends that weren't there. My mother had me committed. No, she did, but she did ask questions like, "Who are you talking to?" And I said, "That's a guy." So it's monologue testing, but you know, you get it, right? If there's a big piece of tape on a green screen, that could be the face of the monster that you have to confront.
That explains it.
What's that?
I said that explains it.
Yeah.
Maybe. Thank you.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
What were the monologues that you were kind of rehearsing to yourself as a kid, kind of trying to, before you're really out there in the business, but as you're kind of honing that talking to your play friends, your imaginary play friends, what were the monologues or dialogues?
They're pathetically inane and just, they were all like, when I was really young, they were just babble, and I also had 3 younger brothers, so I didn't have to be without someone to talk at. But yeah, I mean, the dialogue I don't remember at all. It's all like cowboy and Indian stuff or spy stuff, a lot of spy stuff, and you know, all the cliches.
That's pretty good.
A lot of, we got to get out of here. How many times have you heard that in the last movie you saw? Yeah. Hang on. What, I'm going to let go? Jesus. Think of me the next time you hear any one of those lines in the movie. We got to get out of here. Hang on.
Hi.
As a younger generation who is interested in MacGyver and an aspiring engineer and conservationist, which MacGyver has inspired me since I was a little kid, and you kind of started touching on it earlier, how do you foresee shows like MacGyver and Stargate inspiring kids throughout generations to kind of go into that stuff?
I'm always pleasantly baffled by the dynamic that involves kids who watch MacGyver and were motivated to pursue science or math or construction or something in that realm. I love that happens because and in this crowd that's been here today and people I've talked to, there's been at least a dozen full-blown science or physics guys and girls, or joining the military. There was, I think, a couple or 3. There was a Marine. Is he here? There he is. The Marine, and there was an Air Force. Anybody else? Army? Yeah.
You're there.
So in answer to your question, it makes me feel great that I had that kind of positive influence on people as I was just misbehaving in front of them. I feel guilty meeting them sometimes, but that's my problem.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think there's something, not something, I think there's quite a bit to be said about, let's say MacGyver specifically. He wasn't just a protagonist, he actually was a good guy as a character. Is that something that you're proud of? The fact that as a good guy, as a likable guy, as a, I don't want to say wholesome, but as someone that could still, kind of timeless as one of those heroes, something that you're proud of.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I think I was really fortunate that the series kicked off at a time when television didn't have a non-violent gun-toting hero, TV hero. And so the concept was, ABC at the time was taking a chance, but they rolled the dice, and there was the combination. The concept became very acceptable, especially to families, which was really our success. Was adults showing the kids or sitting down. I hear that a lot too, especially daughters and dads, which I thought is a phenomenal dynamic that they would watch together. And it's not to take anything away from mom or the sons, but I found that had a bonding effect, the watching together as members of the family, because there was. And you're right, it's not a wholesomeness, but and the credibility, of course, was stretched a bit. So, comic relief along the way. Allowed people to go together. Oh, come on, you couldn't do that. But I was very lucky because at the time in 1985, I guess is when we started. There wasn't anything, like the A-Team was the show that was on at the time, and they were kind of the polar opposites of what we were. And I think that helped our success a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Hello.
Hello, sorry, I'm nervous.
I love your tutu.
I am one of those generation that has raised their daughters with Stargate. Sorry, I'm very nervous.
Doing great.
My question to you is, what was it like working with the late, great Dom DeLuise and his sons, Michael and Peter and Dave?
It was good. No, it was great. I mean, the kids are the kids. Peter and I had a nice rapport, very good, irreverent kind of sense of humor, shared sense of humor. His dad was a pain in the butt. Funniest man on two wheels. But the episode that we had him up to be on Stargate, Peter was directing and made it easier for Dom to get a job up with us. Nepotism, you know. But anyway, it was a joy to have him around when we weren't filming because he couldn't stay on script, which if you're acting in a scene with him is a pain. I mean, I love it. I grew up in improv theater, and so to watch him just go off was both humorous and undermining. He would just not stick to the script, and poor Peter had to take him aside a couple of times, and the second time he took behind a flat, and all we heard was, "God damn it, Dad! You're killing me!" So, yeah, I think in a way I was grateful I wasn't on the set all the time for him, but an absolute joy of a human.
At our photo session at 3, can I hug you?
Got a feeling we're all going to be in close quarters. Don't have to worry about that. And I'll apologize ahead of time. I really sweat. So sorry.
See, that one's for the internet too.
Not telling anybody anything they don't know.
Wait, next question.
Are you the internet guy?
I think they're all the internet guys.
Little editing due soon. Hey.
Hi. So I know you used to play guitar and sing from shows like Seven Brides for Seven Brothers and stuff. And I was wondering if you still sing and play guitar in your free time, and if so, what is one of your favorite songs to do?
I didn't understand. Do I still?
I'm sorry, I was asking if you still play guitar and sing in your free time, and if so, what's one of your favorite songs to play?
Well, I could say, no, I don't, and that would undermine the favorite song part. But, I had a habit when I was, traveling, well, mostly it was during the start in the MacGyver days. We went to, when it was all over, I always had a couple of guitars, but I had one, and then we did the MacGyver movies. We went to London and shot 2 of them over a period of 4 months or 5, whatever. And I decided at that point in time that I would, every major location that I would go on around the world, I would buy a guitar in that city. So I ended up with half a dozen guitars, none of which I've played in a year, and but they're real nice. You mean, what's my favorite song from that show?
No, just as a musician, I think.
As a musician?
Yeah.
Well, I could name drop and say Tchaikovsky's Concerto in D Major, Opus 35. One. But I'm a Leo Kottke fan for any, there's, well, that's Leo. Leo Kottke, I saw him when I was going my first year in college in northern Minnesota, and I just was, it's part of the reason I don't play the guitars because he does, and there's just no comparing in my heart, my opinion.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else know him? Leo Kottke. Yep.
There you go.
K-O-T-T-K-E. Google.
Hello.
Howdy. I'd like to touch back on the Groundhog Day episode, if you didn't mind. Thank you.
Thank you.
As you had to fill quite a bit of time in the gag montage, are there any gags that you can tell us about that didn't actually make it into the episode?
Gags? Gags that didn't make it into the episode?
I don't think, I think we pretty much had to use everything we did.
Everything was quite
Time being a factor and all. No, we're pretty prepared going in. We could figure, we were so tight by the time we got into regular series accumulation. So before we even get to the set, we kind of have an idea of what we're going to do, and things will leap out at you that won't work. It just takes too much time to figure them out on stage. So we pretty much used, that's not to say that we didn't utilize the art of editing to help things along, but we used pretty much everything.
All right. Thank you very much.
Because it was all just great. Jeez.
Hello.
Hello. Thank you for coming to Dallas, and thank you for Stargate. What is your favorite part of acting?
What?
What is your favorite part of acting?
Packing?
Acting.
I hate packing.
Does anyone have a favorite part of that? Not doing it?
I wish. My dream would be to just, because I travel a lot. and far away places. And I just wish I got to the point in my life where all I had to do was have my passport, go to the airport, and everything I needed would be wherever I sat or landed. It's just, because I like to be prepared. I'm just fastidious about, the littler things, like toothpicks. What?
I said, isn't that Amazon Prime or Prime Now?
I think other human beings are involved in this one. Assistants, they're called.
But packing aside, what is your favorite part about acting?
Shoot. Well, it's just, it could be a serious answer, which we're not in the mood for. I mean, all right, real quick, there's a whole process, and I think each individual actor creates his own. I have mine, and it's a lot of fun, because I lean on some of the stuff I learned in college at the acting school at Ohio. And it's good to have that kind of technical training, because if you get in trouble trying to find a character or be consistent, you fall back on those techniques. So it's kind of it's not real structured, but I have my go-to safety belts. No, safety lines. Safety what? Pins. I didn't want to get serious about it too deep.
All right, I think we have time for like maybe just 2 questions, okay?
Hey Richard, I'm Trey. I'm curious to know how much ad-libbing you did throughout the whole series of Stargate, and who the big, I figured you, but who was the biggest jokester on set of MacGyver? I mean, of Stargate.
The biggest jokester? Well, Teal obviously was the biggest. Well, yeah, and again, I could get serious about it, but when we first started the show, it's important that you get a rapport with your crew, the producers, the writers, the other actors, and I was one of the executive producers, so I had some responsibility during the read-throughs and the preliminary parts of script development. But in the read-throughs in the early going, first 4 episodes or so, I would ad-lib lines as we're going through the script and reading them, which turned out to be very disrespectful. And I was told as much by Brad Wright, who's our head writer. Took me aside at one point, because, getting laughs and just kind of having fun with it all. But I was missing the point of spending that kind of time. I mean, a read-through is a luxury in television anyway, because it's so in series television, it's so fast. So by my farting around with lines and just being a dick, basically, that wasted time. Unless that's being selfish is what it was, because anything that came to mind I would maybe use or develop or somehow mold to my piece of dialogue down the road. But when you're in a read-through like that and all the cast is there and they're reading their lines, read your lines. Read what the writers have brought to the table. Respect their art, their craft. And then go off and make your changes, but don't do it at the what? The what? Well, yeah, that, but the what?
Table read.
Yeah, no, but at the
Expense.
Expense.
Very good. Yay!
Of the other actors and producers. So I learned and stopped doing that. But so I waited until we were in front of camera.
All right, this is going to be our final question of the day.
this may sound stupid, but when you were a kid, who was your inspiration?
That's not a stupid question. That's a great question.
It's not a question. Let's be honest, it's a declamatory statement. Nobody? That it wasn't. That's not it. Go interrogative on us. Declamatory, we know.
So repeat the question.
There was a question?
There wasn't. See, it started with a declamatory statement, and then
By my being a smartass, didn't hear the question. See? Perfect because I
see you were being funny at the expense of the audience asking the question.
Exactly. I haven't learned a thing.
When you were a kid, who was your inspiration?
For what?
For acting?
Oh, for acting? Well, it's going to be kind of an unexciting cue, but my dad, and he wasn't an actor. He directed plays at a high school in Minnesota. And when I was growing up, and I would go to the rehearsals that he would have, and I mean, he directed shows like Wizard of Oz and Charlie's Uncle, you know, plays like that. But I thought he had so much poise and power. I mean, he was my dad to start with, but now here he is making this box of people do things, and the image just stuck, and it lasted for a good long time. And I do remember this. You've probably all heard this, but I remember going to one of the rehearsals, and during the rehearsal, there was in the play there was a birthday party, and a birthday cake had to be brought out. And during the rehearsal, they brought out not a whole, cake, it's rehearsal for heaven's sakes. They brought out a big tray of Hostess Twinkies. And I swear my 6 or 7 year old impression was, if I can get a job that will allow me to eat free Twinkies, that's what I want to do. It's true stuff.
Living the dream. All right, Fan Expo Dallas. On that note, we've come to the end of the panel, but you're heading out to photo ops next, I think. So you can still go check him out. But otherwise, you guys are great. Please give it up for Mr. Richard Van Anderson.
Thank you, guys. Thanks, Dallas. And Oklahoma. And Minnesota.